Hi, my name is Scott Schneider. Welcome to my first podcast for my new channel, Fed Up in Minnesota. And for my first podcast, I've chosen quite the doozy because I have decided to update the timeline and the events for the Minnesota assassinations and how they tie into the MAGA movement and Donald Trump's violent rhetoric. So let's get started by diving in to the tragic events of June 14th, 2025. ABC News and CBS News both did an excellent reporting on the timeline and also how the events unfolded as Vance Boelter went about going through the business of executing this rampage in which he, in his manifesto and the list of people that he wanted to kill, was trying to dispatch up to 70 Democratic state senators and other officials of the Democratic Party, particularly ones who are pro-life and pro-LGBTQ. And obviously the local media has done a great job of putting together timelines and other information about this and how it all unfolded. And I wanted to give everybody just sort of an update exactly how things went about as the early morning hours of June 14th unfolded here. And Vance Boelter decided that he wanted to, as he said in a text to his family, go to war. So first, by starting to review exactly what went on there and how he executed that, will give us a window into exactly what people like Boelter and the extreme parts of their movement, of the MAGA movement, what they are planning and what they may continue to be planning, or what's going through their minds as they look upon the political landscape and decide for themselves that certain, members of the Marxist, Communist, Democratic, radical leftists, abortion lobby, and LGBTQ and other political elements need to be dispatched and violently erased from this earth. So, Boelter, as you all know, impersonated a police officer, which is one of the most chilling things that I can think of someone who's planning any kind of a massacre like this, or an assassination. And the whole thing took place in a North Minneapolis neighborhood called Brooklyn Park, which is about 5 miles out of the downtown. And so Boelter went out about 2 o'clock in the morning and decided to carry out his whims. And as he did so, he started with, actually not with the murders of the Hortmans. He actually started at the home of the of State Senator Hoffman and his spouse. And the interesting thing about this is how the events that unfolded in that house actually led to Boelter being eventually arrested, and the manhunt that went on helped identify him and got to them to the point where officers were able to take him in. And the heroic of the Brooklyn Park Police and New Hope Police in putting together exactly what might be unfolding during those early morning hours is really key and crucial here. Because without them, especially the New Hope Police and their smart street sense, Boelter may never have gotten to the point where he was on the run, and he may have killed a lot more people that night, particularly Minnesota state legislators from the Democratic Party. And so the way the whole thing unfolded was at 2:28 a.m., as you can see here in the story from the ABC News. Boelter allegedly drove to state representative's house in Maple Grove. Now, in this ABC News story, it goes into detail exactly how the entire process was executed by Boelter. We start out at about 2 o'clock in the morning again, Saturday, June 14th. Now, Boelter originally, in order to carry out his operation, allegedly, I should say, surveilled his victims' homes and took notes, Thompson said, and Thompson is the lead acting U.S. attorney, district attorney, who is taking on this case. So Thompson said that in a search of the home in North Minneapolis, tied to Boelter, authorities seized a list of public officials that had a notation under Melissa Hortman's name reading, "Married, Mark II, children 11th term." According to the affidavit, another notebook included an added notation next to Melissa Hortman's name reading, "Big house off golf course, 2 ways in to watch from one spot," the affidavit said. And Thompson outlined the 4 homes that Boelter originally drove to early Saturday. He first drove to the Hoffman's home in Champlin, Minnesota, in his black SUV with the flashing lights and his police stickers on, impersonating an officer. And this is where the original security footage that you're seeing through the Ring doorbell, with him and the Friday the 13th type mask on, came to fruition. That security footage shows the suspect in a black tactical vest, body armor, and a hyper-realistic silicone mask, armed with a flashlight and 9mm Beretta handgun. And Boelter allegedly knocked on the front door. I should say, I keep saying allegedly, because that's what we have, innocent until proven guilty. And repeatedly shouted, "This is the police, open the door," Thompson said. When Senator Hoffman and his wife came to the doors, the suspect shined the flashlight on their faces, said there was a shooting reported in the house, asked if the couple had weapons. The Hoffman shouted, "You're not a cop," and then the suspect announced this is a robbery and forced his way into the house. Senator Hoffman tried to push the suspect out of the house. Boelter shot him and his wife. Now, Hoffman's daughter called 911. Now, of course, there's another story tied to this, in which the Hoffman's daughter actually, in a sense, is one of the heroes of this story, because without her reporting it originally happening, none of the life-saving measures of the other police officers and law enforcement agencies would have gone into motion here, and the manhunt probably would have started for many hours, perhaps even a few days, as he went on his rampage. Now, a great timeline put together by WCCO, the local CBS affiliate in Minneapolis, also describes the same sort of events unfolding, where Boelter basically visited 4 different houses that night. So, according to acting attorney, U.S. Attorney Joseph Thompson, Boelter travels to the home of another Minnesota state representative in Maple Grove, and again, that state representative is not home, as she and her family are away on vacation. They apparently have, again, not decided to disclose that information for perhaps security reasons. When Boelter didn't discover anybody at this Maple Grove home, he decides to go off and find another legislator to victimize, and that is a home in New Hope. And because of what happened with the Hoffman shooting, the New Hope officers are dispatched to conduct a wellness check on this state senator. And when this particular officer arrives at the home, she sees Boelter's SUV, which looks like a police vehicle, the police vehicle that he's driving in, sitting on the street side next to this home, stalking it. This particular state legislator. The New Hope officer pulls up next to Boelter and attempts to speak to him, but Boelter doesn't respond. which is a huge red flag, because here you are, a law enforcement official who's been dispatched to the scene of a shooting with a potential suspect and victims at that shooting, and when another law enforcement official asks you to identify yourself, you don't say anything. And that's obviously something going really awry there, but because she couldn't get him to respond, she goes off and conducts the welfare check. Now, the person who was at this New Hope home, her name was Ann Rest. And Ann Rest was, because of the fact that she wasn't home, her life was spared, so she would have been victim number 5, and potentially a third person murdered. And if her spouse was with her, would have been even worse as well. And Ann Rest, according to the ABC News story again, identified herself as the lawmaker who was spared. Ann made a statement on the ABC News, in the ABC News story. I'm so grateful for the heroic work of the New Hope Police Department and its officers. Their quick actions saved my life. I am also thankful for the work of state and local law enforcement to apprehend the suspect before he could take any more lives. Rest added, I grieve for the loss of Melissa Hortman and her husband Mark, and I am praying for the recovery of John and Yvette Hoffman. So this is very sobering. The fact that Anna had her life spared because she wasn't home is very chilling. But it goes to show exactly what this man was planning and how far he went to put all these murders together and try to go ahead and execute all of the people that show up on his list. Once he had sort of bombed out on the New Hope potential shooting, he then moved on to the Hortman's. And that's where everything goes deadly. The same very interesting and heroic tactics, the same police, a street smart sense that was part of the way the New Hope law enforcement conducted themselves, led them to also do a welfare check at the Hortman's home, and that was in the form of a Brooklyn Park police officer who was dispatched to that particular house, to that neighborhood, arrived at their home, and he finds the same police vehicle in the driveway. And then he spots the suspect wearing a blue shirt with tactical vest underneath and blue pants, comes out of the Hortman's home. His particular unit, law enforcement unit, exchanges gunfire with him, who then retreats back into the Hortman's home and flees out the door on foot. Now, other stories seem to report that Hoffman went back into the house and then shot the Hortmans. But it makes more sense to me that he had already carried out the shootings, was trying to come out of the house to get back to his police vehicle in the front yard, and then just fled through the house and went through the back door. Because it wouldn't make any sense for him to have a confrontation with law enforcement who come in the yard, see his vehicle, have the shooting exchange, and then run in the house and then murder the Hortmans and then run out of the back of the house. The Hortmans would have at least caused a lot of resistance for him, number one, and the police officers that arrived at the scene would have run into the house after him, which would have been he would have been caught right at the scene there. So I don't think that the Hortmans were alive at this time, and I think, just given the way events unfolded and the way things seem to, make sense, how they worked out, they were already gone, and he fled out the back of the house. So that is, and then the manhunt was on after he went over to Brooklyn Park, and apparently got the vehicle that he fled. He bought from the person at the bus stop, and then fled in that vehicle back down to Sibley County, where his farm is, and that's where he was caught.